Okay, it is August the 16th, 2020.
21.
What did I say?
20.
Take two. Okay, quit laughing.
Okay.
Ah. Good evening. It is August the 16th. What the crap?
Go ahead. Tell them what the date is.
Okay, friends, we are back to tell our story. It is August the 16th of 2021. It is, 9:08 in the evening, before some very significant things happened that happened 2 years ago. So, you and I met on Match, and we went out on our first date, our first meet, on August the 12th of 2018. Okay. So
at 3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock. Which almost didn't happen because of I had asked her out on Friday night, and she had something going on.
I had a friend having a baby.
And then I said, okay, what about tomorrow night, Saturday night? And it was the same thing again.
No, she had the baby. I took my daughter to see the baby.
So this relationship was real close to never happening.
That's just mean.
But it was true. It was like, if it didn't happen on Sunday, August the 12th, 2018, I was done.
You said 5 o'clock, but then I came back and said, how about 3?
Okay. But I'm just saying, in my mind, if you said no for a third time,
3 strikes,
you're out.
Thanks.
That was my thinking at the time.
Little did you know God had other plans.
So that meeting at Dairy Queen turned into, how long were we together?
We talked for 7 hours straight.
7 hours straight. Okay. So the first time that we ever meet, we talked for 7 hours. Almost like non-stop. We couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the significance about 7 in the Bible?
Well, you forgot 3 o'clock first.
It is. Oh, well.
You didn't think about that one, did you?
I didn't think about that. That was just
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. What's significant about 3?
Resurrection.
It's about resurrection. I had gotten divorced from my second wife on June the 1st, 2017. And when that happened, I said I was going to date for 2 years. Someone.
Oh, I forgot about that part.
So I said I was going to date for 2 years.
That was one of the first things you told me on our date.
On our first date.
That's what you said. I will date somebody for 2 years.
Before I get married
to him.
So when we did get married.
So, needless to say, I'm going to stop you right there and tell you that all your plans that you had in your mind, God just smashed them. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, just talk about this. There's 2 numbers that are significant in the Bible, 3 and 7, that I didn't realize until right now as we're making this video. 3 is resurrection. Okay? And I'm going to get this companion Bible, and it says spiritual significance of numbers. 3, it says, denotes completeness. Okay? Or there 3 is significant of divine perfection and completeness. Okay? You know, most people know that anything about the Bible and Jesus, he rose on the 3rd day, which is resurrection, which Michelle had talked about. But 7, which is God's perfect number, that he made the earth in 6 days and rested on the 7th. So there's where we get 7 in the very first.
It's complete. He was done.
He was complete with the earth. So that's where we get 7 of being complete in the Bible. And 7 denotes spiritual perfection. It is the number or hallmark of the Holy Spirit's work. Gosh, I didn't even realize that we had talked for 7 hours on our first date. It's just, oh my gosh.
7.5 hours on the second date.
So that's... When was that? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Was it? What day was that? Do you remember? It was not very long after that first day.
No,
was it?
It wasn't.
It was just a couple of days. Anyway, so we're going to fast forward to May the 2nd of 2019 when something in our relationship changed. And it started...
Well, it actually started in April.
Yeah, it started on April the 15th.
2015.
Where we were talking about something that was going on in your life. And it was digging really, really deep into some dark parts of her life that she didn't want to talk about. And we were uncovering some things, and she was dealing with some things. So this particular day, what's significant about it is we've already made a video about the 2666s. It's one of our very first videos, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but the 666s started me and you, mainly me at the time, of seeing numbers that pointed me to Bible verses, and and those Bible verses and those numbers were always and still is about something going on in my life right then, or it's happening in the future. Now Michelle, she is seeing those same things, and as you listen to what we're about to share, you'll see why it has basically kind of spilled over, and the relationship with God that you have is kind of it's a joint effort between you and I and God in all aspects of our life now. So the 266s, that we saw that day represents there's a lot of things that were coming, and I don't want to go into a lot of details about that day, but we saw a demon spirit, and a really cool story. If you'll go back and watch that video, it's a little over a year ago that we made that video. But there's a reason that I'm telling that part, because of something that happened just, what was it, 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, not even 2 weeks ago.
While we're having dinner with someone that we'll get to here in just a little bit. So,
but that particular day, it seems like that was where God started just
that's where God started meshing Michelle and I together, because we were dating at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was not a real commitment other than we had already said we didn't want to date anybody
Mm-hmm.
else. But then 2 weeks prior to that, we really start getting into some stuff in our lives, especially hers at that time, that were just really, really intense.
Really deep and personal,
Yeah.
because it goes back a long way in my past. So a lot of depth.
So that particular day on May the 2nd, 2019, it just, looking back at it, we can see that God was putting us together right there before we even were engaged and married, and we didn't know.
I still had over a year according to Mr. 2 years of dating here.
Yeah, okay. So let's fast forward to August the 17th.
Tomorrow will be 2 years.
Which is tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 2019 that we're talking about. We had taken my 5 little girls.
Me and Levi.
And
the
Levi.
5 girls and you. Yeah.
And we all went down to a flea market and had come back, and we had gotten a couple of little items, and we had come back to drop them off. And we had already made plans to go to Denny's.
Go feed 6
and
hungry
go
kids.
Let Denny's feed the 6 kids. So, and us. So, she got a couple of them, I got a couple of them, and we started out because we had 2 different vehicles. So, on the way, and I had been thinking about being married to you, and she didn't really know all of this, but
no, not till later.
not at all. But
that wasn't even discussed.
Right, we hadn't
even discussed anything about marriage.
No, not at all.
Nothing.
No, but and since May the 2nd, when God started showing me these numbers, certain numbers kept popping up. So I figured out that when I saw 222, it led me to Mark 2:22. So read that verse for us, Michelle.
It says, "And no one puts new wine in old wineskins, for the wine would burst the wineskins, and the wine and the skins would both be lost. New wine calls for new wineskins."
So when I saw that verse and this other verse that I'm fixing to have her read, when I'd see that number, I associated that number with that verse. Okay? And I also saw 11:11 a good bit too, which led me to Luke 11:11. So read that one.
"You fathers, if your children ask for a fish, do you give them a snake instead?"
So both of those verses, Mark 2:22 and Luke 11:11, speak of basically, do you want second best, or do you want God's best for you? So in other words, when
are you going back to the old way, or do you want a new way?
So I never wanted to go back and do the same old thing. I wanted to do something new that, like Mark 2:22 says. And I'd also been seeing 747. And that number led me to Luke 7:47. So read that one for us, babe.
"I tell you, her sins, and they are many, have been forgiven, so she has shown me much love. But a person who is forgiven little shows only little love."
So that was something that God had shown me that was directly about Michelle and to me, and that I knew that she was different than other people that I had dated after my second divorce, or even before my first divorce, or before my first marriage, and the whole time I had ever been dating anybody, I knew that Michelle was different than other people. But because of some stuff that she had told me on our very first date, and some stuff that we had talked about throughout our dating, you know, I knew that there were some things that she had to forgive herself for, and I would have to forgive her myself, and Jesus would too, for our relationship to go and be a heavenly relationship that God put together. So on this day of August the 17th of 2019, on the way to Denny's, which is about a 20-minute drive from where we were going from and going to, I told God, I said, show me a 222 or an 1111, and I will not marry Michelle. I will end the relationship right here today. But show me a 747, and I will marry her. I will ask her to marry me.
My odds were not very good.
So I gave God 2 chances to say no, and 1 to say yes. So this whole 20-minute drive, I'm looking at every mailbox, I'm looking at every car tag, I'm looking at real estate signs.
Whatever's got numbers on it.
I mean, anything that had a number on it, a light pole, I mean, anything that I could see that had a number with one of these numbers in it was going to tell me that this is what God is saying. Either marry her or don't marry her. Didn't see anything. Go to Denny's. I look at the whole menu.
He is extremely quiet.
And when I say I look at the whole menu, I even look at the calories for every item on the menu.
You were extremely quiet. I didn't have a clue what was going on.
She had no clue.
I was trying to wrestle 6 kids.
It was... no, that's not true. But this was something that was between me and God that I had to know the answer so that I would know to continue the relationship with Michelle or not. So that was very important, you know, because I told God, I said, I want to know if you are giving your blessing for this relationship or not before we get home. So we had decided to go to Denny's, eat, and go to Walmart because
some
had
kids
5 little girls that wanted to go spend some money. That was
money burning holes in their pockets.
So after Denny's, not seeing any of those 3 numbers. I'm talking prices. I'm looking at phone numbers, business cards laying on the counter. Anything. It didn't matter where I saw it. Car tags in the parking lot. It didn't matter.
He was
didn't see nothing. Go to Walmart. Go to the toy owls.
I'm about to say, I got the 5 girls were on the toy aisle. I believe I went to the hunting section down a few rows. So
I'm looking at every price on these aisles. I'm looking at the barcode numbers. I'm looking at everything, the cents per ounce and all of that kind of good stuff.
Why you're intently looking at this stuff.
There's nothing. There's no 222. There's no 1111, and there's no 747. Anywhere after 45 minutes
in the toy section.
Nothing.
We ready to go.
So we had to go get a few groceries.
We ready to go.
And I believe I had chickens at that time. I believe. Yeah.
I think so because we had to get back so you can check them.
Anyway, so I had to get back and check the chickens. And and we had to get a few groceries. So we start going down the aisle,
The back one to go
the big,
towards
the wide back aisle with this big crew that we have.
We're cruising along pretty good.
And
we're trying to maneuver 6 kids pretty quickly so we get out.
We're going pretty quick.
Because after about an hour of Walmart, I'm done.
Yeah, we're at right at an hour in Walmart at this point because of the toy section. And I'm still looking for these 3 numbers. One of these 3 numbers. Because like I said, I told God, this is it. This is do or die type situation. In my mind, and Michelle has no clue about what is going on. And then we pass by the baby section.
The medicines and the butt creams and
and there's like, there's 50. There's 50 probably. There's no telling how many it is. I don't really remember.
Wish you can show the picture of it because that was.
I'm gonna try to add it to this video. The 3rd price on the top shelf. The 3rd from the left on the top shelf.
Keep in mind, we're cruising pretty good
down
this aisle.
We're going at a pretty good clip with as fast as we could with 6 kids. The 3rd prize caught my eye like that. And guess what it was? It was $7.47. And I went, oh my goodness. Nobody except me knows about this.
Because I turned around and nobody was nowhere to be found. I'm like,
so I had stepped into the aisle to take a picture of this. So I could take it, so I'd have the record
turn
of
around
it.
and you went there. I was like, okay, I got 6 kids, and where'd he go?
So we go on, do our grocery shopping, get home, and I pull.
Because I brought my extra clothes because I was gonna help in the chicken house. I went back there and get dressed because Mama Ray was gonna come out there and watch the kids, and so I can help you get done, and we were gonna get done.
So
you told me to wait.
So she had, like I said, she has no clue about this. So I go
frustrated because he's not hurrying so we can get chickens done.
And me and God's got something else on our minds.
I think you went out to
So me and Levi go outside, and I asked Levi, "Are you okay with me marrying your mom?" And he's like, "Yeah, no doubt." So then I get the girls.
Well, you went out to tell your mom and dad because they came out there.
Yeah.
You went out there first.
I tell my mom and dad, God has said, marry Michelle. Okay. Then I tell the girls, these 5 little girls.
Well, when you pull them down there in their room, because of a family member that had just passed away, I thought you were telling them about that. Because somebody had just passed away, and I thought, let y'all do what y'all need to do.
So I tell the girls that I need their help in asking Michelle to marry me. Because I had decided to do it right then. God said, this is her, so why wait, right? So I didn't wait. I did it exactly when God said do it. I did it. So me and 5 little girls get on our knees and ask this lady right here,
will you marry us?
Will you marry us? While Levi is doing the video.
Yeah, little scoundrel. He's a part of it.
So I'll try to add the picture of that as well, if I can, of me and my 5 little girls on our knees asking her to marry us.
Levi behind the camera.
So after all of that's over with, me and Michelle go in to my bedroom to talk privately for a few minutes, and she was like, when do you want to do...
No. What was the first thing I asked you?
I don't remember
what happened to the 2 years.
Oh, yeah. She asked me about the 2 years. I'm like, God said do it, so I did it.
What happened to your 2-year plan?
You know, it was basically a year. You know, a year and 5 days.
Yep.
Anyway, So she says, well, when do you want to get married? And I said,
You said soon.
okay.
You said something about soon. I was like, okay, like what, 2 or 3 months?
And I said, no. The next time the girls come up here, which was 2 weeks. So we end up planning a whole wedding in 2 weeks.
Yep.
In 14 days, we plan our wedding.
The ring got here the Thursday, 2 days before the wedding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and she was like, 2 weeks. And I said, God said do it. Why wait?
Okay.
You know, when God says do something,
didn't argue.
What I've learned over time, if God says do it, when you delay, you become disobedient. So I was like, God said do it, let's do it. I've got his blessing to do this, so let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's fast forward to August the 31st of 2019. We had set our wedding time at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up getting married just after 6 o'clock.
Yeah, we waiting on my friend to get there.
Yeah, her friend got lost.
Yeah, Michelle she got lost. She was the one taking pictures.
So she got lost. So we're having to wait on her for a few minutes. Well, before we get married, my dad and I went over to.
Well, we were all over there. Yeah.
We were
all setting up.
Yeah, we were setting everything up.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to cater food. So I was doing the meat and I was doing some ribs and chicken and we were just gonna have a barbecue type meal. So we had already purchased the meat prior to that day. So I start putting the meat on, and for whatever reason, I didn't think I had enough meat. So I put that meat on, and I said, I've got to go back to the grocery store and get more meat. This is just not going to be enough. I know my brother-in-law and my 2 nephews, and I know Levi, they eat like horses. So we got to have more meat, you know. And we had a couple other friends that were coming, and I knew that they ate a lot too. So I said, we got to have more meat. So I go back to the grocery store that we had gotten the meat from before.
Warehouse discount.
And I pull in the parking lot, and I went, oh my goodness. And I park right beside these 2 vehicles that I saw. I get out and I take a picture of it. And it was 2 cars that had, one of them had 108 on it, and the other one had 108 on it, on the car tags. And they were side by side in the same parking lot. And I took this picture at 11:13 in the morning on our wedding day. And I'm going, God, what's that about? Because this was a number I had never seen before, you know? So I go get the meat. I go back to the where I'm cooking it. And keep in mind, the only reason I get this picture is I didn't think I had enough meat. If I would have thought I had enough meat, this would never happen. Me taking this picture of 2 108s side by side. Okay?
I'm going to insert.
Okay, insert.
We still have meat in the freezer.
Needless to say, we didn't need the meat. But in my mind, I needed the meat. God was telling me, go get that meat. So I get all of the meat put on, and it's cooking. And I get almost back to the poultry farm where I had to check the chickens and all. And I'm looking up these Bible verses. I'm going on these little back roads. Me and Levi were. And I started in Matthew. And because of the genealogy of Jesus is the first part of chapter 1 of Matthew, I didn't even go there. So I went to chapter 10, verse 8. And that wasn't the answer.
Heal the sick, raise the dead, cure those with leprosy.
Yep, that wasn't any part. Then I get to Mark 10:8, and I almost hit the floor. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Read what that says.
And the two are united into one, since they are no longer two but one.
And I went, "Oh my gosh, that's the answer!" I mean, how amazing is that God shows me two cars that are side by side that have the same number in their tag. And I'm going, whoa. So Michelle and I have told this story, mostly me, over and over and over the past 2 years. You know, God has called us to tell the story because it's so amazing and we find out something new about it all the time. We've got a couple of things that we're going to share here in a little bit that we've just found out here in the last couple of weeks about this story as God reveals things to us.
Yep.
But it is just so amazing that God does this. And after sharing this, gosh, this was in March of this year, something like that. We met an engineer on a hiking trip. No, this is April. Up in Huntsville.
Oh, yeah. I was on
we met an engineer that's from NASA, and we're sharing this, I'm sharing this story of the 108. Yeah. And as soon as I said, what's the chances of two car tags being side by side, he immediately, it was seconds. He said, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance. I was like, what? How do you know that? He's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and he starts going down the list of probabilities and all that. And I'm going, woo, okay, that was way over my head. And the guy ends up sending me a message. It's that long of the explanation of how
the 1 in 1,000 would be the probability of it.
The probability of it all. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, oh my gosh. So I get that done. I get the meat on. I see that. And I get there to the poultry farm, and Michelle is doing her Bible study.
The girls already got their girls' stuff laid out.
So they're all getting ready, except Michelle is doing her Bible study. And me being the character that I typically am, I like to horse around with Michelle and pick on her.
Harassing me.
So I'm capturing the moment, just wanting to capture the moment of in pictures of us getting married on this day and her doing her Bible study and all. So I take a picture and I take a real short video at the same time. What I didn't know was something that God revealed to me on February the 16th of 2020, which happens to be my youngest child's birthday. That day, and as we're
around the table doing our Bible study that morning.
We're doing our Bible study, and I looked at this picture for whatever reason, and I saw that I took that video at 1:08 on our wedding day, and I went, oh my goodness.
I'm stuck with her still.
And I couldn't, we had been married 6 months. And I'm going, there's something new that I just discovered about our wedding day and how intricate that God had put all of this together. That is just absolutely astonishing and amazing. You know, how does he do this? You know, and why don't we notice this kind of stuff throughout our lives? You know, and you know, I'm in awe of it. Well, something that probably, I guess it's been about 2 months ago now, God revealed to me this. You remember we talked about on our very first date that we went out on, that we went on a date for 7 hours. That's crazy for a first date. especially off of Match.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of the time you're trying to get that over with as quickly as possible, or at least the ones that I went out with
But see,
prior to Michelle.
think about it though. What I did was very prophetic as well. It wasn't the first day you asked. It wasn't the second day you asked.
I know.
But it was the
third day.
At?
Mm-hmm. At 3 o'clock. So about 2 months ago, this hit me of how much that God has put this together, this marriage of ours together. I took that picture of the two 108s at 11:13. We get married just after 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
God's number is 7.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection, okay? Divine perfection. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 hours before I marry her, God shows me the two 108s. That leads me to Mark 10:8. The two are united into one. They are no longer two, but one. Not only does he show me that verse, but he did it exactly 7 hours before I marry her. I mean, that's astonishing in itself right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like God just put his stamp on the marriage, you know. Before we even got married, he's already put his stamp on it. And we didn't realize all this.
Mm-mm.
Some
Kind of
of it,
unfolded.
but not.
A lot of things have unfolded
I mean,
while
you
we
know,
were married.
And here's the other thing, that not only did he show me the two 108s 7 hours before, but the third one, there's 3 again,
Mm-hmm.
3 108s on our wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
I take a video at 108 on our wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 5 hours before I get married to Michelle. So what's significant about 5 in the Bible, or spiritual significant about numbers of 5? 5 denotes divine grace. It is God adding his gifts and blessings to the works of his hands. That is just so amazing that he gave me and Michelle grace because of our previous marriages were disasters.
Mm-hmm.
Except for our kids, they were disasters.
Yeah, they all ended bad.
They all ended bad.
Therefore, we're divorced.
My 2 previous marriages, and her one,
Mm-hmm.
but they all ended badly. And God is sitting here putting me and Michelle together in such a way that when we start getting upset at each other now, he shows us a 108, and I'm going, well, crap, I can't be mad at her now. Am I right?
I know, you're right.
And that happens to you too,
Oh,
right?
yeah. All the time.
So, so let's...
Do you want to box his head in?
I mean, you can't stay mad long. when God says 108, 108, 108, and it's repeated over and over and over when you're upset at each other. So it can't last long. We know it. We're stuck with each other, right?
You don't have to sound so bad about stuck with her.
Well, that's not true. It's just we like to pick with each other. You know that. So we're having dinner with someone that I had just met in Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
An hour and a half or so before, and
yeah, I had finished work and I went walking.
So we had
and you came and.
So we went to eat dinner with this lady and her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as I'm telling them about this, I had already told her while we were in Walmart. Me and her were in Walmart, but I was telling her husband about it. So I'm going to let you tell this next part of what you discovered while eating dinner, and I'm telling the story about the 108.
Well, it was one of those, I'm going to call it my kidney question. Kidney stone question. We'll have to tell that one day, too.
Yeah, that's another story.
Yeah. Anyways, it was one of those questions that I wouldn't never have thought of.
No.
Because, and you were telling the dates and stuff, and for some reason, May 2nd and August 31st were stuck in my mind. So I thought, I wonder how many days it is between May 2nd, which is pretty much when God started meshing us together.
Sure.
To August 31st. And it was 122 days. But I had previously found 122 as something, as a part of something else.
Something else going on in our lives.
Right. But it didn't make sense.
But it didn't make...
in this situation.
Right.
So, we're trying to figure out what the 122 was as far as May 2nd, 2019 to August 31st, 2019, what it meant.
So let me clarify something. It's not us trying to figure it out. I know that's what you're just saying.
No.
But it's God directing us when He shows us the numbers, or we get the insight to look up the number of days between certain days that's already passed or one that's coming up.
When you have a kidney stone question, you look it up.
And you have these things that happen like this that are God appointed times and dates and down to the second.
Well, He does things so precisely.
No, it's absolutely amazing.
That, He has exact dates, times, of
down to the minute.
Yeah, to where He does things. And so why, I would have never thought to look at this on my own.
It's been almost 2 years.
It was completely Him going, I need you to look this up. I want you to look this up. Look this up. And you were in the middle of discussion, talking to the couple, and I'm over there doing what I'm told to do.
And I'm looking at her a little bit as I'm talking to him, and I see this look on her face, but I didn't know what it was about. When
it was kind of like a, oh my gosh, look what I just found.
Yeah, but she didn't say it out loud because she didn't know, and it wasn't.
Well,
it wasn't when God wanted us to reveal that to anybody.
I wanted it to be just to Him because it had to do with our wedding day, rather than to tell everybody. I wanted it to be between me and you.
So you look up the 122, and because and a lot of times it's whoever God shows that number to, it's something in their Bible or something that's going on with them specifically,
like a thought, like something you're dealing with, something that you're dealing with.
So you look it up and you find it.
Well, and the reason and the reason why I believe this is it is because I asked Melvin whenever he says about the 7 hours before we get married, what does he normally kind of say sometimes?
Yeah, God puts his stamp, has put a stamp on our marriage by showing me the 2108 7 hours before I get married to her.
But another word for stamp is
I can't remember.
a seal.
A seal.
A seal of approval, that type of thing.
Yeah, a seal of approval.
Which made me think, as soon as I read this, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm going to back it up one verse because it's kind of tied into the next one. It's all one. This is all one sentence. So 2 Corinthians 1:21 and 1:22. So keep in mind, it was 122 days between May the 2nd of 2019, and you can put it in the date and time calendar, to August the 31st of 2019 when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us, set his seal of ownership on us, and put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come.
Now here's a really cool part about that verse right there. This was shown to you 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them when you found this verse.
How long has this video been going on?
What, less than an hour and a half ago?
Well, I marked it 56 minutes ago, so there you go.
You found it about an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's how providential that God is about doing things when he says to do it. Because up until an hour ago, we didn't know what the 122 was for.
Well, he told you about an hour and a half ago, I want you to do this video.
On the way home.
On the way to home. Yes.
We went to dinner. On the way home, God said, do this video an hour and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we get here, and I say, you got to look that up because that's part of the story. And I was like, wasn't it a page number or something? Mm-mm. And she looks in her Bibles, and there's nothing.
Nothing in there.
I look in my Bibles, there's nothing.
But I don't think it would have been yours, though.
And I get it.
Yeah.
But we were looking, trying to understand what God was saying about the 122.
Mm-hmm.
And an hour ago, just before making this video,
when I saw that, I knew that's what God was saying.
Mean, it's like...
That was it. That was his seal. That was his stamp right there.
Read that one more time for us. That is just so amazing. God tells me to make this video almost 2 years after being married to Michelle.
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, this month will be 2 years.
But one day before the day I asked her to marry me, and then God shows this, which is just another little something that God says, this is it. So read it again. Sorry, I could just keep going on, but go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Now it is God who makes both us and you stand firm in Christ. He anointed us. This is where 22 starts. Set his seal of ownership on us and put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come.
Guys, that is just so phenomenal. He put his seal of ownership not just on our marriage, but me as an individual and Michelle as an individual, and then us as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm going, how do you do this, God? I mean, it is just so amazing that he does this in such a way. After he's told me to do this video, he shows Michelle this verse, or these 2 verses, and he's put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. That is just so cool.
Well, because we've been saying, because of not only our past, but our desire to follow Him, and the things that He has shown us thus far of being, He's got something,
Oh, absolutely.
And that last part, guaranteeing that what is to come,
I mean, if I could go into the details of what He's shown me today, of what...
We have to go to sleep, Tom.
But I'm just saying, this morning, of talking to who I talked to, and the last time I talked to them was right after we got married. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And this morning, I called him exactly the same time he sent me a text message, and I went, oh my goodness. And then she sends me a text message today at the same time as me calling this guy. It was all three things at the same time, and I went, okay, I've got to look this up. But, and that's a whole nother story. But there's things like that happen, and you go, God was telling me something, but He used Michelle at the same time as part of it.
And then show me something later on
about this same thing that keeps us tied together a lot of times throughout the day in our conversations or text messages.
Right.
That's just absolutely phenomenal. And there's one more thing that I want to share about your ring. Okay. Her ring has 3 strands of gold: white gold, a rose gold, which represents her and I, and then yellow gold, which is wrapped
around the 2 other
around the 2 other ones. And if you look at it, the stone is set this way, not this way. And the reason I have them set the stone this way is because of the verse in the Bible. It talks about
He cast your sins as far as the east is from the west. It's called an east to west stone.
Right. They had never set a stone like this until this particular one. So the 3 chords is in Ecclesiastes 4:12. Read that for us, babe.
It says, the 1 may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken.
So, I had that ring made. So it's not just me and Michelle that are intertwined in our lives together. It's God that wraps it all up. And as long as we stay in a relationship with Him, then we can stay in relationship with each other. So something else that I knew as we were going through this, and as I've shared this story with many, many people at this point, it's just a really cool love story between me and Michelle, and how we met, and the things that we've persevered through before we met in both of our lives, and what we've gone through after we got married. It's just a constant battle of chaos in our lives, but we know that God has put us together for a purpose. How many times have you heard a story that was so intricate, connected to many, many, many parts, down to the time, the day of 2 different events happening, and the number of days leads you to a Bible verse in 2 Corinthians 1:21 and 1:22, you know, that we just discovered a couple of weeks ago, you know. But there's one more part of this story that I want to make sure everybody understands. It's not just a love story between Michelle and I. Because of all of the things that has happened, it's obvious, and you have to be a delusional lunatic not to see this and just say, this is just not true. For you to say that, you don't believe in the power of God that works in such ways that the precise time that things happened is 7 hours before I get married to Michelle. You know? So it's not just a love story between Michelle and I. It's a love story between us, but also God. And if you miss that part, you've missed the whole reason for being married to each other. Yeah. You know? At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah. It has to be.
Even though I love her to death, my relationship with God is more important to me than she is. And I made that known on our very first date.
Yep.
God made it known on our very first date that you just revealed to us, or to me, that it was 7 hours and I hadn't thought about it until, you know, you said it's 7 hours as we're making this video.
Yep.
You know? So, I guess that's all that I think we need to include, unless you're something else that you can think of.
Oh, only one thing come to mind was the fact that, you know, God put you and I together, you know. But how many people can say that, you know, God put them together? You know, how many marriages were put together of our own doings, which we've been there, done that.
I had two.
I have one.
I did two. 2 times.
But of course they failed.
And they failed.
But how many people can say that God put the two people together? I mean, he's confirmed it over and over and over again.
You know, I mean, and that's a good point, because we have shared this story, and a lot of times I'll ask people before I start sharing this story, how did you and your wife meet, or how did you know that you were supposed to marry your spouse? And there's a lot of times that people can't answer that question.
Well, they went to school together. They were together for such and such years.
Right.
Whatever the case may be. I think the coolest time was when you were telling a group of the young people, and we were fixing to tell them and look at the scripture. It was like 10:08. It was one, and they were.
That was about a month ago.
And they were blown away because there was a 1:08 and.
Oh yeah! As I'm telling this story, I mean, and how many times does that happen? Where I'm telling this story, or you're there with me, it's on my phone. There's a 1:08 on the phone. As I'm telling,
one of the young guys
Mark,
was like, "Oh my goodness!"
and he's like, "Oh my gosh, how'd that happen?" You know, and that is just another confirmation that everybody needs to hear about how God put this together, and know that not only can it happen to us, it can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody.
But the key is you got to have a relationship with God first as individuals before you can become one as a couple. So there's got to be a love story to start with God as individuals before there can be a love story with God as a couple.
But even any kind of relationship, it's a two-way street.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and most people get it wrong in a relationship. It's just a one way. They want to have the relationship their way and then go on. But, you know, in order to have like a marriage that God put together, you've got to have that intimate relationship with God.
So what you're talking about is you got to listen to God as much as you're talking to God.
Okay, if you want Him to listen to you, I mean, He wants you to listen to Him as much as you want Him to listen to you, right?
Right.
It's a two-way street. So, like you and I talking. You talk to me, I listen.
So if we wouldn't have, if we wouldn't have been listening to God and earnestly seeking out what God wanted for our lives, we wouldn't have. And you've got to be kidding me! Right now, guys, as we're about to end this video, it's 10:08. Exactly what I've been oh my gosh.
I think we got it there.
Guys, I think I'm going to end it right there. I don't know that we need to add anything else.
I think we're done.
It's just so cool. It's just so cool. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's really lengthy, but there's so many details that God has put in this 108 story that He wants everybody to know about it. And that's just so cool. That's why this is going up on our website and YouTube whenever I get it uploaded and get it put together. So, guys, it's been enjoyable. We've actually learned a little bit here, sitting here, that y'all have discovered as it's happened.
That's we did too.
You know? So I hope this has been fun for you guys like it was for us. So we'll see you next time. But before I let y'all go, I'm going to get a kiss. Guys, y'all enjoy your evening. Bye.